43 kill every tick in your yard. Safe for pets and kids. It is almost dusk. The grass is damp. You smell cut clover and dog fur and the metal of the porch rail under your hand. You look down at your white sock, the one with the blue stripe, and there is a speck on it. The speck is moving. It is moving the wrong way. Up. You feel something tighten just below your ribs because you already know what it is and you already know where it has been going for the last 9 seconds. While you stood there talking about supper, 8 legs, the size of a poppy seed, heading for the soft skin behind your knee. Most folks in this country are losing this fight quietly every weekend, and they do not know it yet. 3 things on your pantry shelf will turn it. The spray truck won't tell you which 3. Sit a minute. We will. Before we go any further, if you've ever pulled one off a grandchild's hairline or off the warm spot behind a dog's ear, leave a single word in the comments. Just the place. Hairline, ear, ankle.
I read them.
It tells me what kind of yard you're walking, and it tells the next fellow he isn't the only one. And if you find yourself nodding at the kitchen table way we talk about these things here, stay with us. There's a seat at this table. The speck on the sock is a deer tick nymph, and it is the most dangerous size a tick ever is. Not the big fat one you find on the dog and curse at, the small one, the one no bigger than the period at the end of a printed sentence. That is the one that gets behind an ear and stays there for a day and a half before anybody notices. And that is the one the doctors are looking at when they talk about Lyme and about the strange new meat allergy they call alpha-gal that turns a hamburger into a hospital visit. We are not going to dwell on the medical end of it. You came here to stop them in the yard. That is what we will do. I found one behind my grandson's ear last June. He had been chasing the dog around the woodpile the way boys do, and his mother brought him up onto the porch under the yellow light to brush his hair. There it was. Tucked tight, already dug in, no bigger than a freckle. I got the tweezers from the kitchen drawer. My wife held his shoulders steady. Nobody said much. When it was out and dropped into a jar of alcohol, my daughter looked at me across the porch boards and asked the question every parent in this country is asking, what do we actually do? I had been thinking about that question for 30 years. Here is the first thing I am going to tell you, and I want you to hold on to it through the whole rest of this. The store-bought spray sitting on the shelf in your garage, the one with the trigger handle and the picture of a tick on the front, it is treating the wrong 80% of your yard. The men in the logoed trucks who come out for $400 and walk the property with a wand, most of them are doing the same. They are soaking the lawn. Ticks do not live on the lawn. They never have. We will come back to where they actually live, and when you see it on a map, you will not unsee it. Here is the second thing. There is a reason the old farmers in this county hardly ever pulled a tick off a child. They did not have better chemicals. They had worse chemicals when they had any at all. What they had was a way of walking the land, a Saturday morning rhythm, a rake, a few buckets, a habit so plain it looks like nothing that kept the woods from creeping in on the house. That rhythm got lost somewhere the time the spray truck got cheap and the weekend got short. We are going to get it back. 3 pantry shelf things, used in the right order, will do more than that $400 visit. I am going to show you which 3. I am going to be honest with you before we go a step further, because I am not selling anything, and I am too old to lie to my neighbors. I cannot promise you 0 ticks. Anybody who promises you 0 ticks is either fooling himself or fooling you. What I can show you is how to drop the count in a normal half-acre yard by something close to 9 out of 10. In my experience, in my yard, on the ground I actually walk, and how to keep the few that remain off the people you love. That is the deal. That is what the title says, and I mean to keep it. Now I want to tell you who is on the other side of this, because it matters. It is not a person. It is not the fellow in the green polo at your door with the clipboard. He is just working. It is the system behind him. It is an industry that learned somewhere in the 1980s that fear sells by the gallon. It learned that a homeowner who is scared of a 6-legged shadow will sign a contract for quarterly applications and not read the back of the label. It learned that the simpler the truth is, the harder it is to charge for. So the simple truth got buried under a yard sign and a phone number, and the rest of us got handed a bill. You can feel it, can't you? You felt it the last time you wrote the check. You felt it when the technician said, keep the dog off the grass for a few hours. And your wife asked which hours, exactly, and he could not quite tell her. You felt it when the bag came home from the hardware store with a skull and crossbones on the back and a child safety cap on the front, and you stood in the garage for a minute holding it, wondering whether the cure was worse than the bite. That feeling is not paranoia. That feeling is your grandfather talking to you through your own hands. He is saying, son, there has to be a plainer way. There is. It starts with a map of your yard that nobody ever drew for you, not the survey map, not the plat. A map of where the ticks actually are, the ribbon of ground where the war is really fought, and the wide green middle where the spray truck wastes its tank. Once you can see that ribbon, the whole problem shrinks. It stops being a yard. It starts being a line. And lines, friend, can be held. Pick up the rake, walk out to your garage for a second, lift the bottle off the shelf, turn it around, read the small print on the back, the part the trigger handle covers when it is sitting on the rack at the store. You are looking for a word ending in thrin, permethrin, bifenthrin, cypermethrin. These are pyrethroids, synthetic cousins of a compound that comes from a chrysanthemum flower, scaled up in a lab and bottled for the lawn aisle. They kill what they touch. They are real chemistry doing real work. They are also what the man in the logoed truck has in the tank on the back of his rig in a stronger mix, paid for by you 4 times a year. I am not going to stand here and tell you these compounds are poison in the sense your aunt's email forwards as they are. That would be lying, and I do not lie to my neighbors. What I will tell you is what the label tells you if you read it. Keep pets off the treated grass until it dries. Keep children off until it dries. Do not let it drift onto the vegetable bed. Do not let it run into the pond, because it is hard on the fish and very hard on the bees. None of that is conspiracy. That is the back of the bottle. Read it yourself. Now here's where the wheel turns. All of that chemistry, all $400 of it, is going on to the open lawn. The flat, sunny middle, the part you mow on Saturday. And ticks, I want you to hear this, because once you hear it, the whole bill starts to look strange. Ticks do not live there. They cannot live there. Direct sun dries them out in a single afternoon. A nymph on a mowed lawn at 2 in the afternoon in July is a nymph that does not see sundown. The spray truck is killing things that were already dying on ground the ticks were already avoiding. So where are they? Step off the lawn and walk toward the trees. Stop where the mowed grass ends and the leaf litter begins. Look down. That 8 or 10 feet of shaded ground, the ribbon where your blade does not reach, where the oak leaves pile up brown and damp, where the woodpile leans against the fence and the stone wall holds the cool of the morning past noon, that is the country. That is where the ticks are. That is where they breed, where they wait, where the mice run their little highways under the leaves at night. 80% of the ticks on a normal half-acre property live in something close to 10% of the ground. Let that sit a moment. 80% of the problem, 10% of the yard, a strip you could walk in 2 minutes with a coffee cup in one hand. That is the click you just felt. That is the puzzle piece sliding home. That is also why the spray truck contract never quite ends, because the work is being done where the enemy is not, so the enemy keeps coming back, so the contract gets renewed, so the check gets written, so the cycle goes on for as long as you will let it, quietly, year after year. Nobody is angry about it. Nobody has to be. The model just runs. There was a man down the road from me when I was younger, kept goats on the back acre, drove a brown truck that never quite started on the first turn. Every Saturday morning, rain or shine, he walked his property line with a steel rake and a tin cup of coffee. You could hear him before you could see him. That dry scratching sound of the rake teeth and oak leaves, slow, patient, all the way down the fence. His grandchildren ran barefoot in that yard. I never once saw any of them stop to check a sock. He was not doing magic, he was tending a line. He had figured out, without anyone telling him, that the line was the whole thing. So here's the map I want you to carry in your head for the rest of this. 3 zones, not 5, not 7, 3. Zone 1 is the lawn, the wide green middle, low risk. Almost no ticks. Ignore it for this purpose. The mower is doing most of the work already. Zone 2 is that shaded ribbon where the lawn meets the wild, the leaf litter, the woodpile, the fence base, the stone wall, the back of the shed. This is the war. This is the only ground you actually need to treat. Zone 3 is the human path, the walkway from the back door to the garden, the dog's favorite route, the trail the kids run to the swing set. These are the tripwires. Defend those 3 in that order, and the rest takes care of itself. Before I tell you the 3 things that go into those zones, do me a favor. Down in the comments, tell me where on your property you found the last one, the fence line, the woodpile, under the deck, the flower bed by the back step. I want to see if your yard tells the same story mine does, because I will bet you a cup of coffee it does. 3 things. You probably already own 2 of them. The third one costs less than a tank of gas, and it works on a principle so old and so quiet that the first time you hear it, you are going to laugh out loud at the back porch. The first thing is cedar, not cedar oil in a spray bottle from the boutique aisle, coarse cedar mulch, the kind that comes in a brown plastic bag at the co-op or the feed store, $3 and change a bag. You are going to lay it down as a barrier strip, about 2 feet wide, along the inside edge of that shaded ribbon. Where the lawn ends and the leaf litter begins, you give it a 2-foot apron of cedar. Many entomologists describe cedar as interfering with how the tick's nervous system tells it to move and breathe. You do not need the long word. You need the fact. Ticks do not cross dry cedar willingly. A 50-foot fence line takes about 3 bags. Call it $22. The second thing is food-grade diatomaceous earth. Say that whole phrase back to yourself. Food grade, not pool grade. Pool grade is a different product, and it is hard on lungs, hard on dogs. Do not bring it home. The food grade kind comes in a paper sack at the feed store, the kind with a picture of a chicken on the front, because farmers have been dusting it into coops for 100 years. You take a coffee can of it, and you walk the woodpile base, the stone wall, the shed footing, the cool side of the fence. You shake it on dry. It works by a plain mechanical principle, microscopic edges that wear through the waxy outside of a small crawling thing, and it keeps working as long as it stays dry. Here's your honest hedge. It does not work after a heavy rain. You dust again. That is the deal. A 10-pound sack lasts most of a season and costs less than 2 pizzas. The third thing is the one that will sound, the first time you hear it, like something a man told you over a fence in 1958. Tick tubes. You take the cardboard tube from the inside of a paper towel roll, you stuff it with cotton balls that have been treated with a small amount of permethrin. You can buy these pre-made in a box at the farm store, or you can buy the kits, and you tuck the tubes back along the woodpile, under the deck, into the stone wall, anywhere a field mouse runs at night. The mice find the cotton. They are looking for nest material. They have always been looking for nest material. They carry it home. The treated cotton lines the nest. The young ticks that ride on those mice die in the nest before they ever grow up to climb your sock. The mouse is unharmed. The chemical stays sealed inside the tube and never touches your grass, your dog, or your grandchildren. Many researchers have traced the deer-tick life cycle through the white-footed mouse for the better part of 40 years. The tube is how a plain man uses that fact. Now hear the order, because the order is the whole thing. Cedar first, that is your geography, the line you draw. Diatomaceous earth second, that is your kill zone along the hard edges where the cedar does not reach. Tubes third, that is the long game, the breeding cycle, the part that works while you sleep. You do them in that order on a single Saturday morning with a wheelbarrow and a coffee cup and a kid old enough to carry a bag, and by noon you have done more for the safety of your family than 4 quarterly visits from any truck in the county. I want to be plain about the safety piece because that is the title's promise and you have been waiting for it. A child can sit down in the cedar strip and play with a matchbox car. The dog can lie in it. Food-grade diatomaceous earth is the same powder old farmers have mixed into chicken feed for generations. You do not want to breathe a cloud of it, so dust low and dust calm, but a barefoot grandchild walking across a dusted board is not in any danger you need to lose sleep over. The tubes are sealed cardboard, the dog can sniff them, the kid can pick one up and put it down, and the permethrin stays inside doing its quiet work on a mouse you will never see. None of that is the same thing as soaking the whole lawn with a wand. If that sounds like the kind of weekend you would rather have, then another $400 invoice slid under the screen door. If you'd rather spend $20 in a Saturday morning than a Saturday afternoon writing a check to a stranger, then you already know the kind of porch this channel is. There is no smashing of anything around here. There is just a chair and a cup and a neighbor on the other side of the railing. Pull the chair up. We sit out here most weeks. Now, the line does not hold itself. 4 times a year, you walk it. In March, before the green comes up, you take the rake to that shaded ribbon and you pull the old leaf litter out into the open lawn to dry and break down. That single act, done once a spring, takes more tick eggs out of your yard than any chemical ever invented. In May, you refresh the cedar where the winter has thinned it. In midsummer, after the first long dry spell, You redust the diatomaceous earth along the woodpile. In October, before the adults go looking for a place to overwinter, you set fresh tubes. 4 walks, 4 mornings, that is the whole calendar. 2 more small things, and they matter. Mow a path. Anywhere your family walks through tall grass or brush, to the garden, to the burn pile, out to the back fence, keep an 18-inch path mowed tight and teach the grandchildren to stay on it. A foreman would tell you the same. Stay on the path, you go home clean, and by the back door, on a nail, hang a cheap blue lint roller. When the kids come up the steps, 2 passes down the legs, 1 across the back of the shirt, done. Tradition holds the old farmers rarely pulled ticks off children, not because of luck, but because the land was tended, the woodlot swept, the stone walls clear, the chickens working the yard, the fence line kept. The materials in your shed are different. The principle is the same. You tend the inch where the grass meets the trees, and you take back something larger than a tick problem. You take back the feeling of being the man responsible for his own ground. Next Saturday, I will show you the one cheap thing my grandfather kept in a coffee can by the back door all summer long that did more for the mosquitoes on the porch than any candle ever lit. Bring a jar. Tonight, walk out 1 more time before bed. The dog comes in. The porch light clicks off. The line for 1 more night is held.